Um, Imagine cramming a full year's worth of career progress, skill mastery, and physical transformation into just 12 weeks.
Right. It sounds completely impossible for most people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But picture a scenario where the needle on your biggest, most intimidating life goals doesn't just inch forward, but violently jumps across the dial.
And, the cost for that kind of leap is extreme. For 90 days, you effectively become a ghost to the outside world.
I think we all know that feeling when you reach the end of a Friday
Mm.
and you are just utterly exhausted. Your brain feels like it's buzzing with static.
Oh, absolutely. The dreaded Friday burnout.
Right. And yet when you actually look back at the week, you realize, wait, I haven't made any real progress on the things that actually matter. It's this incredibly common, highly relatable modern affliction.
Yeah, it's what the sources for today call the stagnation
It's
paradox.
the stagnation paradox
Yeah.
because you're constantly busy, right?
Yeah.
Your calendar's totally full. You're answering messages at 10:00 p.m., but your effort is just diluted.
It's spread so terribly thin over this indefinite timeline.
Exactly. It yields literally zero forward momentum. It's that feeling of running on a treadmill at max speed, sweating profusely, burning yourself out, but the scenery never changes.
It's a perfect description. And the word paradox is crucial here because the input, like the sheer volume of caloric and cognitive energy you're expending every single day, is incredibly high.
You feel the physical toll. The fatigue is
Oh,
real.
it's so real. But the output, the meaningful, needle-moving progress on your deep goals is almost negligible because you're doing everything all at once, which means, neurologically speaking, you're effectively doing nothing of substance.
Right. Your attention is just fractured into 1,000 tiny shards. And that fractured attention is exactly what we are tackling today.
It's a massive problem to solve.
It really is. So we have an incredible stack of sources for this deep dive. We are looking at comprehensive documents detailing a framework called the 90-day monk mode sprint.
And it's intense.
Oh, it is. Our mission today is to completely unpack this high-performance architecture because, and I want to be super clear right off the bat, this is not just a list of cute morning routines.
Right. It's not some top 10 productivity hack list you'd find in a blog post.
Exactly. This is presented in the source material as the literal antidote to modern burnout. It's about taking that always-on, low-grade, agonizing grind that is slowly destroying our collective sanity and replacing it with a highly structured framework.
Okay, let's unpack this. What exactly are the foundational mechanics we're dealing with here?
So the core premise that anchors this entire system is a concept called disciplined intensity.
Discipline intensity. I like the sound of that.
Yeah, the foundational argument in our sources is that to achieve maximum transformation, whether you're trying to, launch a startup, master a new language, write a novel, or completely overhaul your health, you simply cannot operate at a sustained moderate level of stress forever.
Right. It's like a slow burn that just fizzles out. Exactly. The goal here is explosive, undeniable progress. And the framework achieves this by combining the completely isolated, sustained focus of monk mode.
Meaning severe restriction of external inputs, right?
Yes, extreme restriction. Combining that with the high-velocity, short-burst execution of sprinting. But, and this is the absolute key to the entire methodology that most people get wrong, it is glued together by highly strategic, non-negotiable recovery.
And I want to set the stakes right out of the gate for you listening. Why should you care about another productivity system when you already have, 3 apps on your phone trying to manage your tasks?
Because this isn't an app.
Oh, it's not. It's a complete operating system for your biology and your schedule. The promise here is monumental. It's about achieving 12 months of progress in 12 weeks without losing your sanity in the process.
It's a total recalibration of how you deploy your limited human energy.
Right. So to understand how to escape that stagnation paradox we just mentioned, we first have to understand the foundational rhythm this system demands. It is a complete, categorical rejection of how most modern knowledge workers operate today.
It really is. The framework is built on a strict 2-to-1 sprint to recovery ratio.
A 2-to-1 ratio. Let's break down the actual math on that for the 90 days. Because, honestly, 90 days of pure, unbroken intensity sounds like a recipe for a hospital visit.
Oh, absolutely. Which is why the 90-day duration is strictly constructed out of 4 21-day cycles.
Okay, so 4 cycles.
Yeah, and each of those 21-day cycles consists of exactly 14 days of sprinting, followed immediately by 7 days of recovery. And then at the very end of the 90 days, there's a final 5-day integration period to sort of land the plane.
Got it. So 2 weeks on, 1 week off.
Exactly. During the 2-week sprint phases, the protocol demands 90% effort across all domains of your life. But during the 1-week recovery phases, that demand intentionally, forcefully drops to 70% effort.
Just to maintain the momentum.
Right, solely to maintain the momentum you just built.
It sounds like we're treating the human brain like a Formula One car.
That's actually a great way to look at it.
Right. You can't run a hyper-tuned F1 engine at its absolute top speed, redlining lap after lap, indefinitely. If you don't pit the car, if you don't aggressively change the tires, dump new fuel in, and literally cool the engine down, the car doesn't just slow down.
It literally explodes on the track. The pistons melt.
Exactly. The whole thing bursts into flames.
What's fascinating here is how accurately that mechanical analogy maps to human neurology and endocrinology. The sources explain that toggling back and forth between this maximum output and this, well, strategic grace, it mirrors the seasonal growth patterns we see in elite athletes.
Olympic-level competitors.
Yeah. Professional sprinters don't sprint at maximum capacity every single day of the year. They periodize their training.
So by enforcing that 14-day max intensity window, followed by a strict 7-day downshift, you're preventing damage.
You actively prevent what the sources call redlining.
Redlining.
Yeah, in human terms, redlining is that physiological state of constant, unyielding, low-grade cortisol and adrenaline that, honestly, we all live in right now.
Oh, totally. Just constantly stressed.
And when your stress hormones never return to a true baseline, it eventually leads to adrenal fatigue, cognitive decline, and clinical burnout.
But I have to push back on this, because here is what I think is psychologically the most difficult part of this entire concept. Everything in our society, hustle culture, social media algorithms, the expectations of your boss, it all tells us to always grind.
It's relentless.
It is. If you aren't grinding 24/7, if you aren't answering that Slack message at 8:30 p.m., you feel like you're failing. So I read these recovery week protocols, and I have to wonder, how hard is it for a type A, high-achieving listener to intentionally gear down to 70%?
Oh, it's incredibly hard.
It feels like pulling the emergency handbrake while you're driving 90 miles an hour on the highway.
Right.
Won't these people just panic when they're forced to slow down?
They absolutely will panic, and the system anticipates that exact psychological friction. It is incredibly difficult for a chronically busy person to stop being busy.
Right, they feel guilty.
Exactly, which is why the recovery week is just as highly structured as the sprint week. It's not a week off to just sit on the couch and stare at a wall.
So what does it look like? Let's contrast them.
Well, let's look at the stark contrast. During a sprint week, the rules are essentially draconian. There is zero entertainment, zero television, zero video games, zero podcasts that aren't purely educational,
Wow.
and minimal social interaction, only essential family. You are effectively a ghost to the outside world. You're completely unreachable for casual coffee chats.
Okay, that is intense.
Mm-hmm.
And the recovery week?
During the recovery week, controlled entertainment is reintroduced, but it is capped strictly at 2 hours maximum for the entire week.
Wait, really? 2 hours for the whole week? That's barely one movie.
Correct. It's a taste, like a release valve, but not a relapse into binge consumption. And strategic social connections are allowed again. You can have dinner with friends.
So you're stepping out of the isolation chamber, but you are still on a tightly controlled leash.
Exactly. The structure remains, but the pressure is lowered.
It's an engineered oscillation, extreme tension, followed by measured release, which naturally brings us to the actual microscopic execution of this system.
The day-to-day grind.
Right. Understanding the seasonal macro rhythm of these 21-day cycles makes logical sense from a bird's eye view. But what does a 90% effort day actually look like when the alarm goes off on a random Tuesday during a sprint week?
It is intensely granular. The sprint schedule is a rigid, minute-by-minute, time-blocked routine. It begins at exactly 4:30 a.m. and ends at 9:30 p.m., which is designated as a non-negotiable, lights out.
So there is zero ambiguity in this day.
None. You never have to ask yourself, what should I do next? Because the schedule has already made that decision for you.
Let's really dig into that morning. The sources call the first hour the power launch. And frankly, just reading about it made me want to go back to sleep.
Yeah, from 4:30 a.m. to 5:30 a.m., it starts with an instant wake protocol.
Instant wake, meaning you don't hit snooze.
You physically cannot, your alarm cannot be next to your bed. It must be across the room, forcing gross motor physical movement to turn it off.
Brutal.
And this is immediately followed by walking to the bathroom and splashing freezing cold water on your face.
Okay, but we need to understand the why here. Because this isn't just a macho military trope about waking up early, right?
Yeah.
It's a profound physiological trigger.
Right, because if you are listening to this on your commute right now, think about how you woke up this morning. Did you hit snooze 3 times?
Probably.
Did you lay there scrolling through work emails with one eye open, letting the anxiety of the day slowly seep into your brain before your feet even hit the floor?
That is exactly what most people do. And that slow, anxious wake up is what destroys your cognitive momentum before the day even begins.
Exactly. When you force physical movement and then apply cold water to your face, you are triggering the mammalian dive reflex. Yeah, the cold receptors on your face immediately send a shock to your autonomic nervous system. It shuts down parasympathetic sleep states and floods your system with a sharp spike of adrenaline and noradrenaline.
So a clear sleep inertia, that groggy feeling, almost instantly.
It does. There is zero negotiation with yourself. You are out of bed and shocking your system into reality.
So what happens after the cold water? You're awake, you're freezing. Now what?
Immediately, from 4.35 to 4.45 a.m., you move into a dynamic warm-up. Not a heavy workout, just movement to circulate blood and physically activate the body's joints.
Okay, just getting the blood flowing.
Then, from 4.45 to 5.15, there is a critical mental activation block. It's 20 minutes of silent meditation followed by 10 minutes of goal visualization.
You are actively anchoring your mind to the why of the entire 90-day sprint.
Right. And finally, from 5.15 to 5.30, you engage in strategic sprint planning and journaling. You are reviewing the exact targets for the day.
And all of that neurological and psychological priming happens before the clock even strikes 5:30 a.m. That's insane.
Yes. Because from 5:30 a.m. to 7.0 a.m., you enter the athletic performance block. This is your primary physical workout of the day.
So this is where the real sweat happens.
Exactly. It could be heavy strength training, high-intensity interval training, or intense sports-specific practice. And this is followed immediately by a recovery protocol of stretching and downregulated breathing.
Just to bring your heart rate back to baseline.
Right, and then you prepare your fuel for the morning.
Okay, so the morning routine alone is a masterclass in physiological control. But the workday, the actual professional execution required in this document, is staggering.
It's massive.
The protocol demands 9.75 hours of total daily output. And it's not just sitting at a desk casually checking emails for 9 hours. It's split into 3 specific, highly regulated blocks.
That's right. Sprint Block 1 runs from 7:30 a.m. to 12:00 p.m. That is 4.5 hours.
4.5 hours straight.
The mandate here is singular focus on your absolute most important project, the real needle mover, at 90 to 95% intensity. And the rules state absolutely no breaks except for 5-minute water or bathroom stops.
Here's where it gets really interesting, and honestly where I have to push back hard on what these sources are claiming.
Okay, let's hear it.
4.5 hours with virtually no breaks. That goes against literally every piece of modern productivity advice we've ever heard. The Pomodoro technique is the gold standard for a reason.
Sure, 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off.
Right. We are constantly told by neuroscientists that the human brain can only hold deep focus for 45 to maybe 90 minutes before the prefrontal cortex needs a substantial rest. How can finite cognitive energy sustain a 4.5-hour unbroken block? It sounds biologically impossible.
It sounds like a recipe for a migraine.
People are just going to end up staring blankly at their screens by hour 3.
It's a completely valid critique. And if you approach this block the way a normal person approaches work, you would absolutely fail by 9:00 a.m.
So how do they justify it?
Well, the sources address the mechanics of this, and they argue that what we think is biological cognitive fatigue is very often just the exhaustion of context switching.
Context switching.
Yes. Success in that massive 4.5-hour block is actually determined before the workday even begins. The entire 4:30 a.m. to 7:30 a.m. window, that synchronized sequence of cold water, meditation, physical exertion, and strict planning, is designed to prime your neurochemistry specifically for this endurance event.
But even with a primed brain, the glucose in your prefrontal cortex still depletes, right?
It does, but the real secret to extending that glucose burn is the absolute nature of the environmental rules during that block. Your phone is not just on silent, it is in airplane mode and in another room.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Single task focus is not a gentle suggestion here. It is the absolute law of the sprint. What aggressively drains our cognitive energy during a normal workday isn't actually the deep thinking. It's the friction.
The friction of constantly shifting gears.
Precisely. It's writing a paragraph of a report, then checking an email, toggling back to a spreadsheet, glancing at a Slack message, remembering you need to pay your electricity bill.
And then trying to find your place in the report again.
Yes, every single time you switch contexts, your brain has to dismantle the cognitive framework of the previous task and load the rules for the new task.
Which burns energy.
It burns massive amounts of glucose and expends finite energy. By mandating airplane mode, blocking all websites, and forcing a pre-commitment to one single task, this protocol eliminates the friction of context switching entirely.
Oh, I see.
You aren't burning energy deciding what to do or defending against distractions. All your energy goes purely into execution.
Okay, I see the logic. You're removing the leaves in the battery, so the charge lasts much longer. So somehow you survive sprint block 1. It's noon. Then what?
Then you have a 45-minute performance refuel from 12.0 to 12.45. Notice it's not called a lunch break.
No casual lunches here.
No. It includes tactical nutrition, an active recovery walk outdoors to get sunlight in your eyes and reset your circadian rhythm, and mental reset breathing.
And then right back to it.
Then you dive straight into Sprint Block 2 from 12.45 p.m. to 4:40 p.m. This is 3.75 hours focused on your secondary priority or active skill development.
And what's the intensity there?
The required intensity drops slightly to 85 to 90%, and you are allowed exactly one 5-minute break at the 90-minute mark.
That brings us to over 8 hours of deep work.
Yeah.
And you still aren't done.
No. After a strategic dinner and environment optimization in the early evening, you enter Sprint Block 3 from 7.00 p.m. to 8:30 p.m.
In evening block 2.
This is a final 1.5-hour block dedicated specifically to active learning practice or study at 80 to 85% intensity. It's not for heavy output or creative generation, it's for absorption.
A 9.75-hour day of deep, unbroken, context-free focus. Look, the extreme demands of those sprint blocks, it feels like it cannot be sustained by sheer willpower alone.
It really can't.
I don't care how motivated you are, how perfectly you visualized your goals. At 5:00 a.m., your raw willpower will evaporate by 10:15 a.m. on the third day.
Oh, without a doubt.
To survive sprint block 1, let alone make it to block 3 at night, your physical environment and your physical body must be aggressively systematized. You have to remove the human element of choice. You have to eliminate decision fatigue completely.
And that is exactly what the protocol mandates. The sources are incredibly clear on this point. High performance at this level is a product of an environment that eliminates the need for willpower.
Because relying on willpower is a rookie mistake.
Exactly. Let's look at the digital and physical boundaries. We already mentioned phones in airplane mode, but your work computer must have all news, social media, shopping, and entertainment sites completely blocked at the DNS level via software.
So you literally can't cheat.
You can't. Your physical workspace must be entirely cleared. It has to be a true single-purpose setup. If you are there to write code, there is nothing on the desk but the keyboard and the monitor. No sticky notes from other projects, no bills to pay.
It's like bowling with the bumper lanes up.
That's a good way to put it.
You are literally building physical and digital walls around yourself so your brain cannot roll into the gutter of distraction. If you hit a hard problem at 10:30 a.m. and your brain instinctively wants to procrastinate to relieve the tension, the environment simply won't let you.
You bounce right off the bumper and back into the work.
Yeah, if the only things visible in your kitchen are performance foods, and your browser literally will not load a news site, even if you reflexively type the URL, you don't have to use cognitive energy to choose to stay focused. Focus is simply the only option available in the room.
You've outsourced your discipline to your environment.
I love that.
Yeah.
Let's transition to talking about the physical body, because you can't run that mental marathon on garbage fuel.
Definitely not.
The nutrition protocol in this framework is intense. They don't call it food, they call it performance fuel.
And language matters here. During sprint weeks, there is absolutely zero junk food. Zero refined sugars, zero processed foods, no alcohol.
No cheat meals.
None. Pre-workout at 4:45 a.m. is strictly black coffee or green tea with an optional 5 grams of creatine.
Wait, really? Why creatine for a knowledge worker? I thought that was just for, like, bodybuilders at the gym.
It's a great question. Creatine is primarily known for muscle energy, but the brain also relies heavily on ATP adenosine triphosphate for energy during periods of intense cognitive demand.
Oh, so it fuels the brain too.
Exactly. Supplementing creatine increases the availability of ATP in the brain, directly reducing mental fatigue during those grueling 4.5-hour blocks.
That makes total sense. And after the workout.
Moving on to post-workout at 6:45 a.m., it's a simple protein shake, a banana to restore glycogen, and a handful of nuts. And then the 7.0 a.m. power breakfast is specifically optimized for brain function and anti-inflammation.
What's on the menu?
Eggs, avocado, and berries.
Let's unpack that breakfast. Why eggs and avocado instead of, a bowl of oatmeal or a bagel?
Because a bagel provides a massive spike in blood glucose, followed by a devastating crash right in the middle of sprint block 1.
You'll be asleep at your desk by 10 a.m.
Exactly. Eggs are rich in choline, which is a precursor to acetylcholine, a neurotransmitter critical for memory and learning. Avocados provide monounsaturated fats that support the myelin sheath, the insulation around your nerves that allows rapid thought.
Wow, so every single item has a purpose.
And berries provide antioxidants to clear the metabolic waste produced by heavy thinking. Every calorie has a specific biological job.
And what about hydration? I assume we aren't drinking sugary sports drinks.
Definitely not. 1 gallon of pure water daily, supplemented with high-quality electrolytes during the morning workouts.
Got it.
And even the evening meal is highly strategic. The 6.00 p.m. recovery dinner consists of lean protein, like fish or chicken, fibrous vegetables, healthy fats, and crucially, an emphasis on magnesium-rich foods like spinach or pumpkin seeds.
Why the specific focus on magnesium at dinner?
Because magnesium is the biological switch for central nervous system relaxation. During the day, your brain is flooded with glutamate, an excitatory neurotransmitter.
So it's wired.
Right. Magnesium physically blocks the NMDA receptors in the brain, preventing glutamate from keeping your brain wired. It also promotes GABA, an inhibitory neurotransmitter.
So you are essentially using food to chemically force your brain to transition from the high beta waves of the work blocks down into the delta waves required for deep sleep.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this brings us to perhaps the most critical component of the entire 90-day protocol, the anchor point.
9:30 p.m. lights out.
The sources are uncompromising here. The 9:30 p.m. bedtime is the absolute bedrock of the entire system.
What are the rules for the bedroom?
Your bedroom requires blackout curtains, a temperature of precisely 65 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit to mimic the natural nighttime drop in core body temperature, complete and total darkness, and absolutely no screens for 1 hour prior to sleep.
No scrolling in bed.
The goal is to ensure a strict minimum of 7 hours of high-quality, uninterrupted sleep.
Because it's a cyclical dependency. If you cheat the system and stay up until 11:30 p.m. watching YouTube, you don't get the 7 hours.
And if you don't get the 7 hours,
The neurological demands of waking up at 4:30 a.m. and splashing cold water on your face become physically agonizing. The sleep fuels the morning activation, which fuels the 9.75 hours of deep work, which completely drains the biological system, necessitating the strict sleep protocol to repair the tissue.
it's an unbroken chain.
Right. If any single link in that chain breaks, the whole machine grinds to a halt. You can't fake it.
Exactly. You cannot borrow energy from tomorrow. You can only optimize today. And even with perfect sleep and perfect nutrition, that human machine cannot run at 90% intensity for 90 days straight.
Right. Which brings us back to the macro architecture enforcing the recovery week. If the sprint week is about pushing the F1 engine to its absolute limit, the recovery week is about taking the car into the pit lane to ensure the engine doesn't melt down into a puddle of slag.
But again, recovery in the context of monk mode is highly structured. It is not a free-for-all.
You aren't binging Netflix for 14 hours a day and ordering pizza for 7 days straight to reward yourself.
Not at all. Recovery weeks are defined strictly as a tool for momentum maintenance.
So how does the schedule change?
Well, the wake time shifts, but only slightly to avoid shocking the circadian rhythm. You move to a 5:30 a.m. gentle rise.
A gentle rise, so no alarm across the room.
Instead of an alarm across the room and a violent cold water splash, it's a natural wake-up with light stretching and a 15-minute meditation.
And what happens to the massive work blocks? Do you just stop working?
No, deep work drops significantly, but it doesn't disappear. It goes down to 4 to 5 hours total for the day.
Oh, wow.
Focus block 1 is 4 hours, but the required intensity drops to 70 to 75%, and you are legally mandated to take 10-minute breaks every single hour. Focus block 2 is 3 hours at 70%.
I have to pause here and point out the deep irony of this.
Yeah.
Their version of a relaxed recovery week still includes up to 5 hours of focused deep work and waking up at 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
For most people on Earth, a day with 5 hours of undistracted deep work is just a highly productive Tuesday.
It is. For the average person, this recovery schedule would be the most productive week of their year. But relative to the 9.75-hour sprint, it is a massive biological and cognitive downshift.
And what about the physical demands?
They drop too. The double daily workouts of the sprint week drop to a single, moderate-intensity maintenance session. Maybe a light jog or yoga instead of heavy deadlifts.
And the afternoons change completely during recovery, right?
Right. After 4:44 p.m. during a recovery week, the focus shifts entirely away from output and toward active recovery. Hobbies, creative activities that have no financial ROI, and nature immersion.
Nature immersion.
In fact, you are required to spend a minimum of 4 hours outdoors total for the week. The varying focal distances in nature, looking at trees far away instead of a screen 2 feet from your face, actually signals the nervous system to relax.
That makes a lot of sense.
You also reintroduce 1 to 2 high-quality social interactions. Nutrition shifts from a rigid 100% clean diet to an 80-20 rule. 80% performance fuel, 20% enjoyable, with 1 social meal allowed out at a restaurant.
We really need to unpack why this specific type of recovery is mandatory, because the type A personality, the aggressive high achiever listening to this, will look at this protocol on day 14 and think, I'm feeling good, I'm crushing it, I'll just skip the recovery week and keep sprinting to get faster results.
Sleep is for the weak, right?
Exactly, they'll just plow right through it.
The sources explicitly dismantle that exact misconception. Recovery is not a reward for hard work, and it is most certainly not an indulgence for laziness. It is a strict neurological necessity.
A necessity, why?
The key biological concept here is skill consolidation.
Let's really drill down into that. What does skill consolidation mean neurologically?
When you spend 9.75 hours a day in deep focus during a sprint week, aggressively absorbing new data, practicing a complex physical skill, or building a new business system, you are taking in a massive cognitive load. Your brain is firing neurons rapidly.
So you're making the connections.
But, and this is the crucial part, the brain does not actually wire those new neural pathways permanently while you are working.
Wait, really?
The actual learning doesn't happen at the desk. The hardwiring, the actual biological upgrade to the white matter in your brain, the thickening of the myelin, happens almost exclusively during periods of rest, sleep, and lower intensity cognitive states.
So the work is just the stimulus. The rest is the adaptation.
Exactly. The brain needs those lower intensity windows during the recovery week to process, categorize, and transfer the massive amounts of data you just absorbed from the short-term memory of the hippocampus into the long-term storage of the neocortex.
Oh, wow.
If you arrogantly skip the recovery week, you aren't getting faster results. You are actively preventing your brain from locking in the gains. You are pouring water into a bucket with a hole in it.
That reframes rest entirely.
Yeah.
You have to honor the constraints because they are biological, not just scheduling suggestions.
Absolutely.
You have to maintain a wake time within 30 minutes of the sprint target to keep your circadian rhythm locked. You have to limit your entertainment strictly to 2 hours for the entire week so you don't flood your dopamine receptors. It's disciplined relaxation. It's strategic downregulation.
Precisely. It's about maintaining the baseline structural discipline of your life while dramatically lowering the cognitive and physical load on your nervous system.
Okay, now that we deeply understand the micro day-to-day rhythm of the sprint blocks and the week-to-week undulating rhythm of the recovery, we can zoom out. We need to look at the macro 90-day architecture.
The full 12 weeks.
Because these 4 21-day cycles aren't just a treadmill repeating blindly. They evolve. The person you are in cycle 1 is not the person you are in cycle 4.
They absolutely evolve. There is a very deliberate, engineered narrative arc to the 90 days. Cycle 1, which covers days 1 through 21, is called the Foundation Blitz.
Foundationless.
The entire focus of this first cycle is just system installation.
So you aren't expected to be a master of your craft or output genius level work on day 1.
Not at all. In fact, expecting genius output in cycle 1 is a mistake. During the Foundation Blitz, the primary goal is ruthlessly eliminating distractions from your environment and cementing the behavioral grooves of your morning and evening routines.
So it's just about getting used to the shock of it all.
Exactly. It's about building initial momentum through pure, stubborn discipline. You are just trying to get the machine running smoothly without stalling. It's about surviving the 4:30 a.m. wake-ups.
Then comes cycle 2, which covers days 22 to 42. They call this the acceleration phase.
This is where you experience what the sources call a skill explosion.
A skill explosion. That sounds promising.
By now, your routines are locked in. Waking up at 4:30 a.m. is automatic because you no longer have to spend willpower on how to execute the day. You can push your chosen skills to entirely new levels.
So the mental bandwidth is freed up.
Right. You increase the intensity of your workouts, you start achieving actual breakthrough moments in your projects, and crucially, this is where you begin documenting your best practices.
Then we move into cycle 3, days 43 to 63, which is the mastery drive.
Also referred to as expert development. This is the crucible. This is where you tackle the absolute most challenging components of your projects.
You're really pushing the limits here.
You are pushing your physical and mental limits safely, demonstrating advanced competency. You also prepare to teach or formally share your newly acquired knowledge, which, as we know, requires a deep structural internalization of what you've learned.
And finally, the ultimate phase.
Yeah.
Cycle 4, days 64 to 84, peak performance.
This is the summit. You are operating at your maximum sustainable intensity. Your body and mind are fully adapted to the 9.75-hour blocks.
So it actually feels normal by this point.
Yeah, you are completing major milestones, demonstrating massive, undeniable transformation, and focusing heavily on legacy building.
Legacy building. What does that mean in the context of a 90-day sprint?
It means creating lasting systems, automations, or delegated processes so that when the 90 days are finally over, your new level of output doesn't just collapse back down to where it was on day 0. You are building the scaffolding to permanently support your new baseline.
So what does this all mean conceptually? It deeply reminds me of the mechanics of constructing a modern skyscraper.
Oh, that's a brilliant way to conceptualize it.
Cycle 1 is digging the foundation. It is ugly, it is repetitive, it is grueling work down in the dirt. You are pouring concrete, nobody can see the progress. You don't start hanging the beautiful gleaming glass windows, which is cycle 4, until the massive steel frame of your habits is completely cemented into the bedrock.
Exactly.
If you try to jump ahead and hang the glass on day 3, the whole building falls down the first time the wind blows.
It represents a deeply logical, physically grounded progression from raw, stubborn discipline to highly refined, elite-level output. You earn the right to do cycle 4 work by surviving cycle 1.
But let's be fiercely real for a second. No human being is perfect. A system this rigid, this demanding, waking up at 5:30 a.m. every single day, zero sugar, no social media, intense 4.5-hour focus blocks, it is mathematically guaranteed to experience massive friction.
Friction is inevitable.
People are going to fail. Life happens. You get a flat tire, you get a migraine, your kid gets sick. And what I profoundly appreciate about these sources is that they don't pretend you are a robot. They explicitly account for human error.
They absolutely do. And this is what separates this framework from amateur productivity advice. The system is designed with systemic tracking and built-in bulletproofing mechanisms. It starts with daily sprint performance metrics.
The metrics, so we're measuring everything.
You don't just feel like you had a good day, you track it quantitatively like a scientist running an experiment on yourself.
What exactly are we tracking every single day?
You track your exact wake time with a target of 4:30 a.m., plus or minus a strict 5 minutes. You track your precise deep work hours, aiming for 7+ hours of true focus. You track whether both the morning and maintenance workout sessions were completed.
It's basically a massive checklist.
You track your exact bedtime. You track your nutrition compliance as a percentage of clean eating. And finally, you give yourself an honest overall intensity score for the day on a scale of 1 to 10.
Those daily metrics aren't just for a diary, right? They roll up into weekly scores.
Correct. At the end of the week, you calculate a consistency score, an intensity score, an output score, which measures actual, tangible deliverables, not just time spent at the desk, a discipline score based on your strict adherence to the elimination rules like no television, and a recovery score.
Okay, tracking is great. But what happens in the trenches? What happens when you hit a wall? Let's say it's 2:00 p.m. on a Thursday during Sprint Block 2. You're in week 4, and you just lose it.
Your brain just quits.
Right. Your focus wavers, you instinctively reach for your phone even though it's on airplane mode. Your brain is literally screaming for a cheap dopamine distraction. What do you actually do in that moment?
The protocol includes a very specific rehearsed 5-step reset for when focus inevitably stalls.
A 5-step reset. What's step 1?
Step 1, stop the activity immediately. Do not try to stubbornly push through a scattered, foggy brain. It only reinforces bad habits.
Okay, stop working. Then what?
Step 2, execute a 5-minute physical reset. This usually involves stepping away from the desk, splashing cold water on the face again, and engaging in deep box breathing to forcefully reset the autonomic nervous system.
It's quite literally like a hard reboot for a frozen computer.
Yeah,
You cut the power and restart the sequence.
exactly. Step 3 is a recommit ritual. You sit back down, explicitly review your core motivation for doing this sprint, and take a single minute to visualize the successful completion of the day.
That grounds you back in the purpose.
Right. Step 4, you restart the work, but you don't jump back into a massive 4-hour block. You start with a short, highly achievable 25-minute focus block to rebuild your psychological momentum.
Well, what's step 5?
Step 5, and this is the most crucial part for long-term success, you track the incident, you document what triggered the loss of focus.
What caused the glitch in the system?
Exactly. Was it a specific difficult task? Did you skip the electrolytes? You gather data so you can learn from the failure.
What I find so incredibly refreshing about this is the philosophical shift regarding that failure. The sources explicitly mandate that you analyze a missed target or a loss of focus without any self-judgment.
Yes. The text demands that you view your errors through the dispassionate lens of a lifestyle strategist.
Lifestyle strategist. I like that framing.
If you missed a target or lost focus, it is a system failure that requires a mechanical adjustment. It is not a deep personal flaw. It is not a moral failing. You don't sit there and wallow in guilt calling yourself lazy.
Right. You don't beat yourself up.
You look at the data, you recognize that your blood sugar dropped or your sleep was compromised, you make the adjustment, and you course correct immediately.
It's like a commercial airline pilot dealing with a flashing warning light on the dashboard. They don't sit in the cockpit crying about being a bad pilot. They don't take the warning light personally. They just run the diagnostic checklist, flip the necessary switches, stabilize the altitude, and keep the plane in the air.
This raises an important question, though, which the protocol anticipates. What if the warning light isn't just a momentary stall? What if it's a systemic system failure? What if you are actually burning out despite the recovery weeks?
Right, because earlier we established that the entire point of this architecture is to prevent clinical burnout.
The framework has a non-negotiable built-in fail-safe called the 7-10 rule. Because you are monitoring your energy levels daily in your metrics, you have data.
What's the rule?
If your self-reported, honest energy level falls below a 7 out of 10 for 3 consecutive days, you are forced to take a complete rest day. Mandatory. No debate.
Wow. So the system forcibly shuts you down if you try to push past your biological limits.
Yes, because the guiding principle of the entire monk mode philosophy is this: intense does not equal destructive. If you are destroying your physical health or your mental stability, you are fundamentally violating the core philosophy of the sprint. It is about sustainable high performance, not martyrdom.
And there are other insurances against failure built into this architecture, right? The sources spend a lot of time talking about success multipliers.
These are proactive protocols you implement on day 1 to act as a safety net for when your internal willpower inevitably wanes on day 40.
Like what kind of protocols?
It includes having a dedicated accountability partner for rapid daily check-ins during sprints. It includes public commitment, telling your network what you are doing so that the social pressure keeps you aligned when you want to quit privately.
You essentially use social pressure to your advantage.
Right. And it includes daily progress documentation, like taking a photo, recording a quick video log, or sharing a metric every single day to visually prove your consistency to yourself. These multipliers effectively externalize your discipline.
When your internal engine stalls, the external environment drags you forward. So you run the 4 intense cycles. You sprint, you recover, you push through the friction, you use the 5-step reset when you stall, you build the foundation in cycle 1, and you achieve absolute peak performance by cycle 4. You finally hit day 84. You've completed the active, grueling cycles. What happens in those final 5 days of the 90-day window?
Days 85 to 90 are the post-sprint integration phase. This is the landing gear coming down. This is where the true lasting value of the entire 90-day ordeal is secured. You don't just stop and go back to normal life.
Right, they would undo everything.
You spend this week analyzing all the metric data you collected over 3 months. What worked best? Where did you struggle the most? What tasks yielded the highest ROI?
Because to be clear, the goal isn't to live in monk mode forever.
Absolutely not. Living in monk mode indefinitely would be socially, emotionally, and physically isolating. It would ruin your life.
Yeah, that sounds awful.
The integration week is about designing a sustainable long-term version of your life based on the superhuman baseline you just established. Maybe you don't do 9.75 hours of deep work anymore because it's not necessary. But you realize you can easily, effortlessly sustain 4 hours of intense, undistracted deep work every single morning before anyone else is even awake.
And what about all the fun stuff you cut out?
You plan the gradual, careful reintegration of the social items and entertainment you eliminated, but you do it intentionally, rather than just blindly falling back into old, bad habits of infinite scrolling. The ultimate goal of this framework is to use these 12 weeks of extreme restriction to permanently, irreversibly elevate your baseline of existence.
So as we wrap up this incredibly deep dive into the monk mode architecture, I want to pose a question directly to you, the person listening right now. Look at your life. Consider your career trajectory, a complex physical skill you've been wanting to master for years, or just your basic daily discipline. Which specific area of your life is most in desperate need of a 14-day high-intensity sprint right now?
It's a powerful and necessary question, because until you honestly isolate the specific target, you cannot successfully apply the intensity. General intensity just leads to general exhaustion.
I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to chew on. We talked at the very beginning about that terrifying feeling of the stagnation paradox, sweating on the treadmill at maximum speed but going absolutely nowhere. Perform a ruthless, honest audit of your current daily output right now. Look at your last week. Based on that 7-10 energy rule we just discussed, are you currently operating in a state of productive, strategically focused intensity? Or are you just redlining your biological engine toward an inevitable breakdown and disguising it as hard work? Take a hard, unforgiving look at your calendar, look at your daily screen time, and ask yourself the hardest question: who is actually in charge of your attention? Because if you don't architect your focus, the world will happily steal it.